There are moments in life that change us forever. For J.K. Rowling, one of those moments came wrapped in grief and heartbreak. The most traumatizing day of her life was the day her mother died. Rowling was only 25 at the time, and that loss shattered her completely. It didn't just take away a parent. It took away her sense of direction, her emotional anchor, and the one person who had always believed in her. What made it even more painful was that her mother never knew she was writing a book, never knew that her daughter had already begun weaving the magical world of Harry Potter. 6 months before her mother's death, Rowling had started writing the story that would one day touch millions around the globe. But back then it was just a private dream, pages filled with scribbles and notes, a fragile idea she was nurturing quietly. When her mother passed away, that fragile dream almost died with her. The grief consumed Rowling, leaving her lost and empty. She would later admit that her mother's death deeply influenced her writing. The feelings of loss, love, and the idea of death itself became central themes in Harry Potter. The way Harry loses his parents, the haunting presence of the past, it all came from that personal heartbreak. Trying to rebuild her life, Rowling decided to leave England behind. In 1992, she moved to Portugal to teach English as a foreign language, hoping that a change of scenery might heal her pain. There, life took another unexpected turn. She met a man, fell in love, and got married. For a brief moment, it seemed like things might finally be looking up. Soon, she gave birth to her daughter, Jessica, a small light in the darkness that had surrounded her for so long. But the joy didn't last. Her marriage began to crumble, and the relationship quickly turned toxic. After only 13 months, it ended in divorce. She was left alone, heartbroken again, this time with a baby in her arms and no clear idea of what would come next. With almost no money and nowhere to go, Rowling returned to the United Kingdom, settling in Edinburgh. It was winter. She was a single mother, jobless, and broke. She later described that period of her life as hitting rock bottom. She was, in her own words, as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. Rowling was surviving on state benefits. She spent most of her time writing in cafés, with baby Jessica sleeping in a pram beside her. The warmth of the cafe was a small comfort, a refuge from the cold outside and the even colder reality of her circumstances. She would order the cheapest drink she could afford, just to have an excuse to sit there for hours. While others might have seen only failure and hopelessness, Rowling saw opportunity in the only thing that had ever made her feel alive: writing. She poured all of her pain, all of her loneliness, and all of her imagination into the story of a boy who discovers he is a wizard. She created a world full of hope, friendship, courage, and love, everything she needed most in her own life. But at that time, no one knew the name J.K. Rowling. She was just a struggling writer trying to survive. Her situation was dire. She had no money to afford a computer, so she wrote everything by hand on scraps of paper, old notebooks, anything she could find. When it came time to send her manuscript to publishers, she couldn't even afford to photocopy the 90,000-word manuscript. Instead, she manually typed every version herself to send to different publishers, one keystroke at a time. That meant retyping her entire book over and over again. Imagine the patience and persistence that takes, especially when your life is falling apart. Then came the rejection letters, one after another. 12 publishers turned her down. Each rejection felt like another door slamming shut. She began to doubt herself, to question whether her dream was even worth chasing anymore. She wondered if she was simply wasting her time. But even as hope began to fade, something inside her refused to give up. Finally, one small London publishing house, Bloomsbury, decided to give her book another look. Not because of a marketing strategy or a big executive decision, but because the CEO's 8-year-old daughter had picked up the manuscript and absolutely loved it. That little girl's enthusiasm changed everything. Her father decided to take a chance on the book, and that chance turned into one of the most extraordinary publishing successes in history. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was released in 1997, and almost overnight it captured the hearts of readers everywhere. Rowling's world of wizards, spells, and friendship resonated with both children and adults. People lined up to buy her books. Bookstores couldn't keep them on the shelves, and as the series grew, so did her fame. The seven-book saga went on to sell more than 450 million copies worldwide, translated into dozens of languages, and adapted into one of the most successful film franchises ever made. The little story she wrote in cafés while her baby slept became a global phenomenon, inspiring generations and creating one of the most beloved fictional universes of all time. In 2011, Forbes estimated J.K. Rowling's net worth at around $1 billion. She became one of the richest and most influential authors in the world. From being a jobless single mother depending on welfare, she had transformed her life completely. But even with all the success, she never forgot where she came from. She often said that failure gave her the foundation to rebuild her life. Losing everything had freed her from the fear of failure, because she had already faced the worst and survived. It's easy to look at Rowling today and only see the success, the money, the awards, and the movies. But behind that success was unimaginable struggle, loneliness, and heartbreak. She faced rejection 12 times. She faced the death of her mother, a broken marriage, and poverty. She battled depression so deep that she even admitted she once considered ending her own life. But she didn't. She kept writing. She kept believing in the story inside her. And that story ended up changing her life and the lives of millions of others. When people ask her how she did it, Rowling often says that it wasn't magic. It was perseverance. She simply refused to give up. And maybe that's the real magic here. Not the wands or the spells, but the power of never giving up on yourself, even when everything seems lost. Every dreamer goes through that moment when the world seems to say no. When doors close, when people don't believe in you, when failure seems endless, that's the moment that decides everything. You can either give up or keep going. Rowling's story reminds us that success isn't about luck. It's about persistence. It's about believing in something so deeply that you keep fighting for it, no matter how many times you fail. Imagine if Rowling had stopped after the first rejection. Imagine if she had decided that maybe the world was right, that her story wasn't good enough. The world would have never met Harry Potter. Millions of children would have never discovered the joy of reading through her books, and one woman's life would have remained buried under the weight of unrealized dreams. But she didn't stop. She kept going. And because of that, she changed not only her own destiny, but the cultural landscape of an entire generation. Her story isn't just about writing books. It's about hope. It's about finding light when everything around you is dark. It's about turning pain into purpose. When Rowling sat in that cafe, exhausted and broke, she didn't see herself as a future billionaire or world-famous author. She just wanted to finish her story. She wanted to do one thing well, write something meaningful. And that's what made all the difference. If you're struggling right now, if you feel like you're failing or that the world has forgotten you, remember this: every success story begins with struggle. Every triumph starts with rejection. Sometimes life will break you down just to see what you're made of. Sometimes it will take everything away before it gives you anything back. But those who keep going, those who keep believing, always find a way through. J.K. Rowling's journey shows us that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Without the pain, without the loss, without the rejections, she might never have written the story that changed her life. So if you have a dream, protect it, even if people laugh at it, even if no one believes in it yet. Even if you're doing it alone, keep working, keep trying, keep creating. Because one day, your story might be the one that inspires millions. When you feel like giving up, think of Rowling sitting in that cafe, typing away while her daughter slept beside her. Think of her opening yet another rejection letter and still choosing to write again the next day. Think of her standing at the bottom completely broke, with nothing but words and determination. And then imagine her standing on the stage years later, thanking the world for believing in the magic she had once created in silence. That's what resilience looks like. That's what real magic is. Life will test you. It will break you. It will make you doubt yourself. But as Rowling's life shows, even in your darkest chapter, the story isn't over. You're just turning the page. And maybe, just maybe, the next one will be the chapter where everything changes. So what's your story? Are you ready to keep writing it, no matter how many times the world says no? Because somewhere out there, your own version of magic is waiting for you to believe in it.